Alex woke up dreading the day ahead. Staring at the paperwork on his desk, he wondered if this was all life offered. As the playwright Woe Soyinka asserted, you cannot live a normal existence if you haven't taken care of a problem that affects your life and affects the lives of others, values that you hold which in fact define your very existence. He knew there must be more than this repetitive grind, but to break out of it, he first had to understand what did he truly value and why did it matter. As the Greek philosopher Socrates said, the unexamined life is not worth living. We've all pondered those big questions. What gives life meaning? How do values shape us? We would delve into the concept of creating value. We will look at various types of values, including moral, ethical, and aesthetic ones. We will discover the reasons we hold these values and where they originate. You will gain useful insights for recognizing your own fundamental values. As Alex discovers his, and let's uncover the values within you too, because only once you know what matters most can you live a life of purpose. When we discuss products and services, we often associate value with money. However, value is more than just a price tag. It encompasses not only the cost people will pay for unexpected benefits, but also what an item does for its owner and its importance to others. It goes beyond physical attributes and can carry different meanings for different individuals. The root meaning of value traces back to Old French, where it meant worth, price, moral worth, standing, reputation. A person's values are the core principles they hold dear and follow in their actions. These principles help them decide what's most important in their lives. Values describe the qualities we aim to embody, how we treat ourselves and others, and how we interact with the world. They are like our guidebooks for how we should act. The term values is often associated with things that are excellent, desirable, or worthy. Values motivate us to take meaningful actions. Our motives can vary, and they are the reasons behind our actions. Personal ideals, which can differ from person to person, shape our moral compass. Cultural values are those shared by a group of people, whether they are religious or secular. When your values are clear to you, making decisions become easier. As Roy E. Disney observed, clearly defined values serve as a guiding compass when navigating life's complex decisions. Value represents the unique connection an individual has with their purpose. What one person deems crucial in a situation may not hold the same significance for another. Take for example the story of Philoctetes by Sophocles. A decade into the Trojan War, the Greeks captured Helenus, the Trojan seer and son of Priam. He foretold their victory hinging on the use of Heracles' bow and the skills of the expert archer Philoctetes. Odysseus and Neoptolemus, Achilles' son, embarked on a mission to retrieve Philoctetes from the island of Lemnos. This task was far from easy, as Philoctetes bore deep resentment toward Odysseus and the Greeks for abandoning him during the war. Their arrival on the island marked the beginning of Sophocles' Philoctetes. Odysseus instructed Neoptolemus that, in pursuit of future glory, he must commit a deceitful act, convincing Philoctetes to trust him while concealing Odysseus' presence. Persuading Neoptolemus, portrayed as an ethical young man, proved to be quite a challenge. To gain Philoctetes' trust, Neoptolemus pretended to share his disdain for Odysseus. He claimed Odysseus possessed Achilles' armor, rightfully Neoptolemus' inheritance, and that Odysseus would never relinquish it. After earning Philoctetes' trust and offering him a ride home, Neoptolemus gained access to the bow of Heracles. While Philoctetes endured excruciating pain in his foot, Neoptolemus held the bow steady. The thought of returning it crossed his mind, but guilt prevented him from doing so. Tensions escalated upon Odysseus' arrival, but Neoptolemus' inner conscience prevailed, leading him to return the bow. Threatened from all sides, Odysseus and his men fled. Neoptolemus attempted to convince Philoctetes to visit Troy voluntarily, but he refused. Despite the consequences among the troops, Neoptolemus agreed to return Philoctetes to Greece. This seemed to be the play's climax, but then Heracles, now a deity, appeared above them as they departed. He promised Philoctetes healing and Greek victory if he traveled to Troy. Philoctetes accepted. Deceit is frowned upon, but in this case, with the fate of the Trojan War, Helena's prophecy, and Odysseus' advice to trick Philoctetes, Neoptolemus faced a moral dilemma. He was reluctant, preferring honesty and even considering forcibly bringing Philoctetes back. This was contrary to his value of doing good deeds. Throughout the narrative, Neoptolemus grappled with guilt over his deception. In contrast, Odysseus viewed it as a necessary means to win the Trojan War. Just as values differ among individuals, each of us embarks on a unique journey to discover our inner truths. As Plato explored in his Allegory of the Cave, sometimes the value society conditions us to accept only reveals shadows of reality. Plato imagines prisoners chained in a cave, so they can only see shadows on the wall, projections of objects passing outside. The prisoners take these shadows to be their only reality. One prisoner breaks free and escapes the cave into the sunlight. For the first time, he sees the true nature of the world outside. But when he returns to tell the others still trapped in the cave, they do not believe him. This story parallels the search for meaning and values within ourselves. We may feel trapped by societal conditioning and surface appearances. Our exploration inward leads us on a journey out of the cave toward enlightenment, where our eyes adjust and we align with authentic values. This process of revelation can be difficult, just like the prisoner who could not convince the others. It is difficult to help those still trapped in limited perspectives to expand their values, but the journey itself brings us closer to the truth. Just as the escaped prisoner emerged from the darkness of shadows into light, examining different values sheds illumination on this inner journey toward purpose. In today's society, getting caught up in the me mentality is easy. What can I do for myself? How can I get ahead? This self-focused thinking permeates many aspects of modern life. Just as the prisoners chained in Plato's allegorical cave saw only shadows and echoes of reality, the illusion of the me mentality traps many of us, unable to see beyond our narrow personal concerns. Alex felt chained to an unfulfilling job, chasing ego gratification. Many of us fall prey to the superficial view of life. But behind these desires, Alex shared the same core human needs we all have: to find meaning, connect with others, and express our authentic selves. Alex realized that this me mentality causes us to focus only on the shadowy projections of success, high-paying jobs, prestige, fame, and material goods. These cater to the ego but obscure our inner truth. Consider again how our society defines success. It often revolves around well-paying careers, social status, fame, and material possessions. These external signs of accomplishment satisfy our desire for recognition. Social media further amplifies this trend by encouraging individuals to showcase crafted images of themselves. This can lead to the urge to vie for a validation that is quantifiable but short-lived. From an early age, we are taught to excel, earn top grades in school, secure a spot at a great college, and attain our dream job. Celebrity news and admired influencers foster a habit of comparing ourselves to others. Those who don't fit society's expectations often experience social stigma. This hyper-individualism has led to disunity, empathy erosion, and a rise in depression and anxiety. Yet we forget a crucial truth: what we do for ourselves dies with us, but what we do for others lives on. Studies show giving back reduces stress, boosts happiness and health. It satisfies our soul longing for purpose. So while the me mentality promises happiness on the surface, cultivating the we brings deeper fulfillment. There is value in lifting each other up. Here's a fundamental psychological principle to keep in mind. The more an individual thinks about something, the stronger that association becomes, known as the reticular activating system. The more and more of something they see, are aware of, the more significance it holds and influences their actions. Incorporate all our ideas. They place a high value on them, which are ego-driven. Therefore, the RAS seeks confirmation and support for their existing worldview. In other words, confirmation bias. They make up their own world and live in it. Therefore, it's dangerous to have a negative internal dialogue. When Alex heard theories that contradicted his preconceived notions, he felt skepticism, a natural reflex driven by confirmation bias, our tendency to seek a validating evidence. As the Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu stated, "Watch your thoughts, for they become words. Watch your words, for they become actions. Watch your actions, for they become habits. Watch your habits, for they become your character." Essentially, you are what you believe yourself to be. This highlights a problem in the United States where there's a strong focus on individualism, valuing independence, uniqueness, and self-reliance. These values have their benefits, such as celebrating diverse ideas, self-expression, and personal growth. However, they also have downsides, including increased division, reduced empathy, a sense of disconnection, and higher levels of depression and anxiety. Early in life, success often seems synonymous with getting top grades in school, gaining admission to a prestigious university, competing for well-paying jobs, worship of celebrities, comparing ourselves to others, and owning expensive possessions. Society often stigmatizes individuals who cannot achieve these goals or work in less glamorous positions. As a result, the prevalence of these cultural norms encourages more people to adopt this value system. At a cultural level, through institutions such as family, education, and government, there is a shared effort to promote social values and the idea of self-improvement by combining our conscious and unconscious aspects, a process known as individuation. This means that when individuals go through this self-improvement journey, they become better members of society, benefiting our culture through increased goodwill among people. In many Western societies, a common moral shortcoming is the tendency to view things as black or white without recognizing the shades of gray in between. This relates to the well-known human tendency to see actions as either good or bad. When we categorize thoughts and behaviors into these two opposing categories, it helps us understand the importance of distinguishing extreme behaviors, such as excessive pride. Humans often exhibit extreme behaviors when left to their own devices. As a result, the negative aspects of excessive pride stand out more in our collective awareness because of the significant harm it can cause compared to its positive aspects. As the writer H.G. Wells reflected, we enjoy warmth because we have been cold. We appreciate light because we have been in darkness. By the same token, we can experience joy because we have known sadness. For example, we often notice a sense of vanity, a focus on our appearance, physical abilities, or social status. Another aspect linked to vanity is stubbornness, where someone refuses to admit mistakes or hold their ground. The final dimension of pride involves exclusion, where someone may ignore or belittle others they consider unworthy. However, it's important to note that pride itself is not negative. It's only when someone leans hard into these negative aspects that problems arise. Pride can also have positive qualities, such as fostering self-respect and finding joy in one's honest efforts and achievements. Nietzsche's central argument in Thus Spoke Zarathustra serves as a foundation for this opposing viewpoint. The author describes a phenomenon referred to as passive nihilism, where traditional values lose their influence, leading to a sense of resignation from life and societal responsibilities. Nietzsche famously proclaimed that God is dead. He believed that individuals who were characterized as weak and resentful shaped the prevailing moral norms. These individuals, Nietzsche argued, promoted submissive and conformist behaviors because such implicit ideals served their own interest. Because of this, the author rejects the idea that someone needs to replace or transform conventional moral standards, as it would otherwise lead him to the Ubermensch framework known as Superman. According to Freud's theory, traditional moral standards clash with our inner desires, known as the id. In contrast, Nietzsche argues these standards oppose our Dionysian, spontaneous wild side, creating a celebratory notion of the uniqueness of everything, which reflects the orderly and restrained Apollonian. Sigmund Freud explores the origins of guilt in his book, Civilization and Its Discontents. A relatively strict and vigilant conscience is the very sign of a virtuous man, and though saints may proclaim themselves sinners, they are not so wrong. In view of the temptations of instinctual gratifications to which they are peculiarly liable, since, as we know, temptations do but increase under constant privations, whereas they subside, at any rate temporarily, if they are sometimes gratified. A dread of authority and a fear of the superego. In the first case, one is compelled to forego gratifying one's instinct. In contrast, in the second, one is compelled to face punishment, since it is hard to conceal the persistence of prohibited wants from one's superego. Our understanding of right and wrong, which has deep roots in our nature, develops as we learn to control our impulses. Suppressing many everyday human behaviors in the name of morality can lead to various mental and physical health problems. While holding strict moral views can lead to problems like repression, we must also be careful not to embrace moral relativism too fervently. Common values play a vital role in society. Striking a balance allows us to enjoy the benefits of moral principles without becoming rigid. For instance, delaying immediate gratification can be psychologically challenging, but contributes to long-term success. Some level of self-control in restraining our basic instincts benefits the community. However, when taken to extremes, it can lead to issues such as shame, anxiety, and a denial of our fundamental human nature. Psychology highlights our shared human desires for personal expression and a sense of belonging in the community. Managing this delicate balance becomes more achievable when we practice moral humility, acknowledging our limited capacity to judge others who hold different values. One such person believes that self-sacrifice must be the cornerstone of all self-improvement. This view holds that putting the needs of others before one's own causes giving up most of one's own wants, needs, and affections. This selfless giver, who preaches that things should be done without expecting anything in return, is always let down and is frustrated when no one recognizes his efforts, often results in a rise in mental health issues such as depressive and anxiety disorders. Nietzsche said that the harshness one has with oneself serves as an immunization against domestication and is the true source of guilt or a changed conscience rather than breaking protective standards or the good itself. In Civilization and Its Discontents, Freud discusses a similar idea. The belief that humanity owes its existence to the birth of gods leads to a feeling of guilty obligation once more. The clash between the desire for individuality and the expectations of society. As Hamlet observed, there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Our perception shapes our reality. Expanding our perspective beyond dualistic thinking enables us to discover and nurture our essential values. When we acknowledge the untapped creative potential within ourselves, often hidden in our subconscious or shadow side, and the universal themes found in character archetypes, we gain a clearer understanding of the individuation process. This process can serve as a remedy for the growing moral challenges of our times. Let's explore moral, ethical, and aesthetic values to understand the roles they play in cultivating what matters most within. As Daniel Bell observed, art is the aesthetic ordering of experience to express meanings in symbolic terms. Aesthetic values refer to the characteristics of something or someone that leads people to form different opinions or reactions. We evaluate the world both through spoken and unspoken means, based on the qualities of things like art, natural scenery, people, systems, and situations. These evaluations can reveal our moral and ethical judgments about the objects and ideals or result from our observations of the natural world, influencing our perception of whether they are good, bad, or convenient. For instance, consider the emotionally charged impressionist paintings of Van Gogh compared to the serene, contemplative water lilies by Monet. The same natural scene can evoke contrasting aesthetic responses, shaped by the artist's personal perspective. As Alex ventured into new interests and activities beyond his usual office job, his worldview and aesthetic values expanded. His appreciation for art and the beauty of nature took on new significance as he opened his eyes to possibilities beyond his previous limited perspective. Exposure to different cultures taught Alex that aesthetic values are subjective and can change as we gain understanding. Similar to how the prisoner in Plato's cave saw the world differently when exposed to sunlight, Alex's values transformed with his newfound experiences. Aesthetics is a branch of philosophy that examines the experience of beauty in art. This term can also encompass people and customs. Culture plays a significant role because it's understood that artworks reflect diversity within a culture. Since every culture is unique, we can attribute various aesthetic values to each of them. This concept can even apply to everyday objects that hold intrinsic value. Therefore, we interpret and portray nature with both positive qualities like beauty, harmony, or balance, as seen in the Venus de Milo, and negative qualities like decay, tragedy, or chaos, as seen in the Battle of the Somme. These interpretations are visible reflections of the moral and ethical values within our culture. As Friedrich Schiller observed, aesthetic matters are fundamental for the harmonious development of both society and the individual. Our perception of aesthetics shapes both individual and collective values. Moral values are the beliefs of right and wrong that guide one's action and decisions. They guide us in making moral choices and inspire us to act ethically. Honesty, respect, accountability, compassion, and forgiveness are only a few of the most crucial moral principles. For Alex, it instilled many of his moral values during childhood, such as being honest, caring for others, and following the rules. As he grew older, society imposed additional values related to success, like material wealth and status. But over time, Alex questioned whether those values reflected his inner truth and what he valued most in life. Alex's process of self-discovery led him to re-examine moral values inherited from his upbringing and societal conditioning. He started seeking values that align more with his desire for creativity and meaning. This inner truth seeking allowed Alex to shape his moral compass based on his own evolving beliefs. The proper decisions in life are much easier to make when we have a strong moral compass. A firm grasp of good and wrong is essential, so developing moral principles is crucial. They can aid in cultivating compassion and an awareness of the results of our actions. Like Prince Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, who agonized over whether to fight his own kinsmen, we all face moral dilemmas where values like loyalty and duty conflict. There are often no easy answers when core principles collide. Almost everyone agrees we can teach morals and ethics. In other words, they are not innate but develop over time because of exposure to various environments and interactions with others. We learn generosity, honesty, and responsibility from a young age. As we become older, we learn new moral lessons from our loved ones and the community at large. Television, literature, and movies all have a role in shaping our understanding of right and wrong, but many think that morality is hardwired into us from birth. This shows that we do not need to gain them consciously, as they are inherent to our nature. Our moral standards are instead embedded in our DNA. Whether we are altruistic or selfish is a nature versus nurture debate. As more and more studies evaluate this debate, we have shown it through human evolutionary history that we develop a capacity for both the ability to act selfishly and compete for resources and cooperation and kindness to thrive together in a society. Ethics serves as a set of guidelines that influence how people behave. It's important to understand that ethics is the study of morality and the practical application of moral principles in our personal lives and society. These moral standards are based on what is right or accepted in our society. These ethical standards remain relevant over time and help us distinguish right and wrong. As philosopher Immanuel Kant noted, the outcomes of our actions can be influenced by unforeseen events and circumstances, regardless of how rational our intentions may be. Therefore, in each case, one must treat people as if they were an aim and never a means. The morality of an act should not be assessed by its effect, but by its ethical reason. Immanuel Kant argued that doing something out of pure obligation rather than doing so will help us reach some end is desirable. As Cory Booker observed, if you look at great human civilizations, from the Roman Empire to the Soviet Union, you will see that most do not fail simply due to external threats, but because of internal weakness, corruption, or a failure to manifest the values and ideals they espouse. Societies that stray from their founding values sow the seeds of their own destruction. What is the distinction between moral and ethical values? Moral values represent the accepted principles of right and wrong within a group or society. Our upbringing and societal influences shapes them, instilling ideas about what makes up good or bad behavior from an early age. These values can be rooted in cultural, religious, or philosophical frameworks and includes virtues such as honesty, loyalty, and respect for life. Ethical values emerge from personal introspection and reasoning as an individual matures and accumulates life experiences. They require thoughtful contemplation when navigating ethical dilemmas. As people grow wiser, their ethical values may evolve and even take precedence over ingrained moral values if adhering to the latter will cause harm. Examples of ethical values include concern for social justice, environmental responsibility, and a commitment to nonviolence. While moral values provide a foundation for shared norms and societal stability, ethical values offer a more nuanced approach, especially in complex situations. The key distinction lies in their origin. Moral values are imposed by authority or society, whereas ethical values stem from an individual's inner moral reasoning. Morals apply within a group, whereas ethics can differ among individuals based on their thoughtful reflection. In summary, morals represent the ingrained customs of a community, while ethics entail the deliberate applications of values. Ethical values uphold fundamental moral principles, but also allows for exception in exceptional cases. The essential difference lies in their source, society versus the individual's conscience. As Albert Schweitzer asserted, a man is truly ethical only when he obeys the compulsion to help all life which he is able to assist, and shrinks from injuring anything that lives. Ethics calls us to look beyond norms to a higher duty of compassion. Now that we explore key distinctions between moral, ethical, and aesthetic values, let's trace the origin and evolution of our value systems throughout history. As we've seen with Alex, identifying your true values is only the first step. Living by those values can prove even more challenging. Though excited by the prospect of change, Alex soon faced difficulties, acting on his own desires for creativity and adventure. The concept of morality traces its roots back to ancient times, beginning with animism. Animism, which is the belief that everything in the physical world, including humans, possesses a soul, laid the foundation for our understanding of right and wrong. According to animism, not only people but also animals, plants, rocks, rivers, weather systems, human-made objects, and even words were thought to have a soul. Our ancestors from the distant past followed this belief system, and many remote tribes around the world still practice it today. Within this framework, totems and taboos distinguish behaviors considered sacred. Violating these sacred rules could lead to punishment as ostracism or even death. As time passed and we enter the Bronze Age, a mythos religious system emerged, blending with the beliefs of various cultures and incorporating many gods. These gods often played roles in creation myths and were linked to an afterlife associated with different natural objects and phenomena. These divine beings not only influenced ethical standards for living, but also kept elements from animism, such as the concept of the soul. The rise of monotheistic faiths like Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, in contrast to polytheistic religions, resulted in the transmission of moral teachings from God to the faithful. In the wake of the scientific revolution and the Age of Enlightenment, some people looked to other philosophical systems for guidance as they established their core principles. Alex identified the values passed down to him by his family, culture, and society. However, as time passed, he wondered if these values genuinely reflected his inner beliefs. This led him to think about developing his own set of values instead of adopting those he had inherited. Alex's personal journey is like humanity's evolution in values, transitioning from blindly following inherited moral systems to seeking meaning through self-reflection. In the same way that moral values evolved from animism to monotheism and philosophy, Alex aimed to create values that resonated with his own conscience. Before revealing the type of core values to adopt and practice in one's life, it helps to distinguish what values are antithetical, anti-values. The ethical and moral standards of their society shapes people's actions. Behaviors that run counter to these norms are antithetical, representing a contrast to these principles. Concepts such as fairness, loyalty, gratitude, and community can clash with these harmful beliefs. When we introduce anti-values into discussions about values, we open the door to a variety of interpretations. We might discover symbolic meanings for words, much like how we often associate Dionysus with wine. Viewing life through the lens of simplistic good versus evil dichotomy is akin to being confined within Plato's cave, unable to perceive subtlety. To attain a more enlightened understanding, we must explore ethical complexity that transcends these binary notions. The meanings of words are vast because of their capacity to carry symbolic and metaphorical connotations. What someone else in your area or group sees as a good thing, you might see as a bad thing. For instance, We might see disobedience as a heroic act in situations marked by slavery and submission. I will provide the following illustration to further explain what makes up an anti-value. In classical Greece, the Greeks had a strong dislike for hubris. Many crimes, including rape and disrespect of the dead, were considered being committed by those who were too proud to admit they had done anything wrong. The Greeks did not view pride and vanity as sinful in and of themselves, but they did stress moderation. Like any other sin, pride might become hubris only when taken to extremes. They viewed both food and alcohol in the same light. It was not acceptable to go to the extremes. For instance, the ancient Greeks valued physical prowess and mental acuity in several of their matches. Both teams were competitors. It was not bad if one's pride did not consume them or harm others. Yet Dr. Faustus' insatiable thirst for power and pleasure led him to sell his soul to the devil, an act of excessive pride that led to eternal damnation when the 24 years were up. When we oversimplify ideas as either purely good or completely evil, we risk justifying harmful actions in the name of morality. Believing that the ends justify the means can empower our darker impulses. For example, many people who think they are eliminating evil have done evil themselves. However, trying to combat perceived immorality with immoral methods only leads to more darkness. Seeing life in shades of gray introduces nuance into our value judgment. We can work to reduce suffering without viewing those we disagree with as evil. With anti-values, the danger often lies more in self-righteous certainty than the values of themselves. As Pope Paul VI wisely observed, all life demands struggle. Those who have everything given to them become lazy, selfish, and insensitive to the real values of life. The very striving and hard work that we so constantly try to avoid is the major building block in the person we are today. Overcoming challenges strengthens our values. It is not uncommon for people to adopt anti-values when they often see others avoiding the signs that represent their values. However, as the ancient Greeks, hubris drew out what makes up good or bad by polarizing the concept. This informed the framework of moral values at a cultural level. In society, individuals often have beliefs that differ from established ethical codes, like those found in religions or a culture's philosophy. Trying to equate values with their opposites, or a person's unique life experiences and external factors, always influences anti-values. One common comparison revolves around the concept of hubris. Societies create rules and social taboos to address extreme behaviors or anti-values such as excessive drinking, extravagance, or corruption. These issues are often tackled and taught through education. However, sometimes certain institutions adopt and promote harmful values that can have a detrimental impact on society. As Marshall McLuhan observed, all media exists to invest our lives with artificial perceptions and arbitrary values. We must know how outside influences can distort our values. Just as the escaped prisoner emerged from the darkness of distorted shadows into light, moving beyond the dualistic thinking of strict moral principles allows us to bring our true values into focus. Like the prisoner who ventured out of the cave and saw the world as it truly was, we must look inward to discover our authentic truth, our core values that exist beyond societal conditioning and superficial appearances. As Alex begun his journey out of the cave, taking the first steps to question his conditioned perceptions and discover his authentic purpose. But as the prisoner learned, convincing others still trapped in their limited beliefs poses challenges. Next time, we'll see if Alex can inspire positive change by living out his values. For now, he functions as a guide, lighting a path for us to bring our own inner truths to light. The journey of self-discovery starts by uncovering the values unique to each of us, but values remain abstract until we put them into action. We must not only cultivate our inner values, but provide value to the outer world. As Aristotle stated, knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom. By looking within, we can bring our authentic values into focus.